Hello, welcome back everybody to another one of my videos on my road to 2400. In this video I'm going to be showing games that I'm doing in the weekly classical arena. My rating is over 2370, just 28 points to go. I am doing the very first round now, so I'm getting someone who's a little bit lower rated than me, just 1,000 points lower. So on paper I should have an easy game, but in reality I could always mess up. I've berserked, so I only have 10 minutes flat, no increments. They have not berserked, they have 20 minutes plus 10 seconds increment. Now, just to go through the first few moves, so that you're caught up, or if you're curious. It went e4, e5, I played the Vienna, they went knight f6, and I played f4. Again, this move is one of my favourites because it does look a little bit like the King's Gambit, but it has some independent value. Some of the black lines in the King's Gambit don't work too well, but others are more effective. For example, d5 is a very popular move from black, and I've played it myself as black. They went d6, which is a little passive. I played knight f3. Then they took me, so they're playing kind of two systems at once. I don't normally see black do captures and d6 without moving their f8 bishop, so it might be a slight error. I played d4 to win the pawn. They pinned me. I took the pawn. Knight c6 to potentially attack d4, but I didn't really care. I might lose a pawn if I do take with the queen, but I was thinking of doing g takes if they do bishop takes f3. They went h6, which I'm not sure about. I castled. They then went g5, and I then shoved e5. My idea is to kind of open up the center as quickly as possible, and by doing that hopefully I can win the game quickly. But they have now played d5, which does make things a little bit complicated. So with d5 I think I should continue with my idea of trying to open up the center with pawn takes knight. Now if they take one of my bishops, I have stuff like rook e1 check. I might just pre-move, but let's be a bit more careful. Rook e1 check is exactly what I'm doing. Now, they don't have a lot of options here. They do have king d7, which is potentially the best move. They've got bishop e6, upon which I'll play maybe d5 to attack. So it's possible that king d7 is correct here. Then okay, no, they've gone bishop e6. Alright, that takes out a lot of trouble. Let's see, d5 just looks so kind of natural to play. d5, let's see, d5. Then they take my bishop, I take their bishop. They trade the queens. They take on e6, I'll take with my rook. They'll go king f7. Don't quite see a way to win this. It's a little bit frustrating. Alright, what about playing something simple like bishop g3? They go g4 maybe. Then I could go d5. That might work a bit better, or I could even go knight h4. Oh no, I can't because the d4 pawn would drop. So g4, d5. Takes knight. I would probably either take their bishop, or I could even wait and do queen to f3. Quite a fun move. Alright, it's too complicated for me. I'm just going to go d5. I think maybe bishop g3 is better, just to keep them guessing, but it looks like a very complicated position. After g4, then I have to play d5, and I still lose a minor piece. So I have a feeling that I'm ahead. Now they have played bishop check, which I was not expecting. Okay, well, let's play it simple. I guess that after d5 here, do I have bishop e3? That looks like a very sensible move here. I was thinking about king h1, but actually save this, and their bishop is not really able to save itself. If they do bishop takes d5, bishop g4, I take on c5 with check. If they take my bishop, I take back, and they're still pinned. They have done bishop takes d5, right? Bishop takes c5 looks like the natural move for me to play. It's a check. They have to probably do bishop e6. I think king d7 would just allow me to capture on d5 with a huge advantage. So bishop e6. And do I have knight d4? Is that a good move? I just like the idea of doing like, wow, okay, they've done knight e7, they haven't even done that. Okay, wow, that is very dangerous. I think just playing it as simple as possible is rook takes e7. I think this wins the queen. Because if king to f8, I just play rook d7, discovered check. And if they do queen takes, I don't know which capture is better, but I suspect bishop takes is the easiest move. Cementing their king in the center. My bishop is... oh wow, okay, they've done it, alright. My bishop would have been anchored on e7, so the whole thing is horrible. Now, their queen is about to get taken. I am down to 6 minutes, but that's not really an issue. I should win this game relatively quickly. Kind of hoping they resign just so I can get to the next match. Good, and they've resigned. Good game. 16 moves. So it wasn't the most difficult match I've played. And I did think I would gain 0 for that that win, because I'm 1,000 points higher rated. I think I actually gain like 0.2 or something. So if I win like 5 games against 1300s, I would get something. This game I'm going to gain like something very small, like sort of 0.5 or less than a point anyway. Alright, I'm going to try and play aggressively, play a Scandi opening. They've taken me. I do like knight f6, try and tempt them into playing stuff like the Icelandic gambit. Now, I could play the Icelandic or I could play c6. My own preference is to play c6, but, you know, I've played that quite a few times on these videos, so I thought I would, you know, show off my ability to play the Icelandic. Now, knight c3. I believe knight c6 is the main line here, but queen e7 is often quite fun. I think it's d3 or d4. Can't remember which move it is. Bishop e2. I have knight c6, and I think I'm better anyway. Alright, let's just play simple. Knight c6. Because I like castling queenside early. And if they go d4, I think in these lines you can often do queen takes. They have done knight f3, naturally. Then bishop b4 is quite a fun move. d4, I can't remember what to do. Queen e7 just is easier to castle quickly. And while my bishop on f8 isn't very good, I think the reason I don't like bishop b4 is they can actually play d4 in those positions, and I think if white plays it correctly, I could really mess up. But queen e7, I think wins back the c4 pawn, almost no matter what they do. And if they try and defend it with like queen b3, they could lose extremely fast. So the Icelandic gambit essentially is weakening the white position by giving them an isolated d-pawn. But on the other hand, I've got minor pieces that are not entirely harmonious. So bishop e2, I have to take the pawn. Bishop takes c4. I think castling is technically correct, upon which bishop takes bishop to try and close the e-file a little bit. Knight takes is usually correct, in order to not trade queens. Then castle queenside. So I do have a very small edge in development, because I've developed my queen, and my rook on d8 is a lot better than their f1 rook. But I will need to catch up fairly soon with things like queen e6, queen d7, then getting my bishop out the way. So with rook e1, queen d7 to me looks like the simple move. It keeps an eye on f7 just in case of knight g5s. Gets out the way of their rook on the e-file. Connects my queen and rook in a battery. Prevents any queen g4 checks. Makes d4 harder to play. I think they can just about get away with it here, but it is suspicious to play that move. And also it has a guard on c7 just to prevent any nasty tactics from them. So here, bishop to c5 is looking okay. They go d4. I take with. Can I take it? Take with my knight. And we trade off a lot of stuff. And I guess I take on f7 at the end. Maybe bishop c5 isn't too hot. What I can do is I can actually try to trade the queens. In Scandinavian, normally black is okay with trading queens, and actually I'm just reconsidering. I was thinking of taking with the rook to activate it, but actually taking with the knight is more principled. It will put my knight in the centre. Knight g5, I think I can do some defending moves like rook d7. But they played knight c3. I don't really want to trade off the knights, so I'm going to come in, threaten knight c2, also have an octopus knight on d3, kind of paralysing my opponent. I still haven't connected the rooks, which I am planning to do pretty soon. Right, knight d3 needs to be done quickly to prevent d4, and bishop c5 is coming next move. So I'm hitting f2. I'm also ready to trade off my knight for bishop at any time. I've got no real weaknesses. I've got 2 pawn islands with 3 pawns abreast on the 7th rank. Okay, they've played rook e4. That doesn't really threaten anything, so bishop c5 continuing the initiative. And my final piece to connect together is my h8 rook. So I am thinking about rook h e8 if I can't take on f2 or do any other tactical plans. So for example, knight d1 is a defensive move, and I think rook e8 is pretty solid. They have done rook e2, okay, so defending everything. I don't need to take on f2 sacking 2 pieces for a rook. I will first develop my piece. I'm now planning to take their rook and then take on f2, winning a pawn, which makes things much easier. Both of us are down to 7 minutes, but that's plenty of time to finish a game. I won't really be concerned until I'm under about 2 minutes. If rook takes rook, I take back with the rook, so I can pre-move that thing. Just before I got to pre-move it, they did it. Okay, so I could have done bishop takes f2 first, but I like having my rook on the open file, threatening some more stuff. I've still got f2 completely under guard. Now, if knight d1, which they're doing, I improve knight d4. So I've got knight to e2 check, and if they do knight takes knight, I make them on e1. They've managed to get nearly all their pieces onto the first rank, which is not somewhere you want to be. What could they do here? King f1 doesn't look entirely useful. They've done b3. I do have knight takes knight, then rook e1 check. I don't see anything stronger than that this turn, so maybe there is a mate. However, this is so much easier and it wins a piece. So despite it not being the strongest move on the board, I win a piece, and I think I win a second one because of the bishop on c1 being pinned. Okay, normally I would just take to make things easy for myself, but actually there's nothing they can do. Yeah, like if they did rook b3, I'd take with my knight on c1. So I'm now 2 pieces up. Maybe knight to e5 just to keep things easy. Bishop to d4. Their rook is practically trapped. It can barely move anywhere. Alright, knight to g6. If they go rook d3, I take the pawn. They're still checking me, which is... not checking me, attacking me, which is annoying. Good lord. Okay, f4. Alright, so rook to g1 nearly mates them, but it doesn't quite get there in time. Yeah, I don't quite see the way to win this. There must be a way. I must be missing something here. Oh, I know what to do. Simple move. Well, I say simple. Can you see what my plan is? I have a horrible threat, which is not easy to stop. Pawn g4 mate. I think the only way to stop it is to play rook g3, and then it's over. I'm winning a rook for bishop, so I'll be a rook up at the end, which I know I've given up 2 pieces for the rook, but this makes it so much easier to play, because I don't have to maneuver around with knight and bishop anymore. They have no counterplay with any pieces besides their king. And I think I can just take with the bishop, they take with the pawn, I play h5, preventing their king even from running up the board. My king is close enough to prevent any passed pawns from troubling me. And it's over, yeah. And just target the pawns from behind. And there's nothing they can do. They're going to lose a few pawns here. Okay. Again, their pawns are being attacked from behind. There's nothing to do. They've got no pieces to stop me. E6, okay, I take one pawn. If f7, I have rook f1. King g2 is a nice trick, but I can then take here and then play rook d8. So I'm still not losing anything. My rook comes to the 8th rank to cut off any queening move. And now I think I can just play... I could just play g4 and then pre-move the pawn all the way to e1. But instead I'm going to wait for them to push their pawn. That's the only thing they can do. Okay, then pawn takes, and I take back. Pre-move. Don't know why they're playing this on, but they seem to want to. There's no stalemates, I see. And they're getting mated very, very soon here. They're getting mated in, I believe, 2 moves. There might have been a quicker mate, but I don't really take much time to analyse that position. It's too easy. Alright, so I'm not exactly good in the listings. I've only just started the tournament. It's been going for nearly 2 hours. I've got 6 points because I berserk twice, getting 3 points for each berserk. I will gain 5 points if I berserk and win because I'm on a streak. 290th out of 1700. So let's just make it easy and say I'm 300th. 3 out of 17. That's about 6 percentage point. 6%, 80. I'm about 8 in the top sort of 20% of players, roughly. But there could be a big change, because if I win one game, that normally puts you up a huge amount for every win, because I was like 1500th or something when I started, because I hadn't got any points. Then I went to 800th, and then 200th. Right, berserking again. I think let's try out d4. Play a more easy setup. And I gained 1 point from 2 wins. They've also berserked. They're playing a Dutch. Alright, let's have some fun with this. g4. This is quite an aggressive setup with g4. But it actually is actually relatively good. Even computers in the last year or so. I checked this line out about maybe 6 months to a year ago, and I was surprised that it seemed to give white like a relatively okay advantage, even though it's a kind of a reverse Benko gambit, if that makes any sense. And then I think knight takes is actually the better move here, because you want to bring your knight to f4 or g5, which the knight can go to from h3, and bishop g2 is more often than bishop to h3. So if you take with your bishop, you often have to retreat it back to g2, so there's no point doing that. Now d5, knight g5 is the kind of critical line. They are having h7 be attacked. I've also, if they play h6, I actually have moves like e4 with queen h5 check being very, very annoying for black to deal with. Also, bishop g2 is relatively okay. Bishop f4 might be coming. I could play knight to c3. Could shove with e4. I've got so many options. Queen d3 is yet again another move, which is not often seen. They have played h6, so let's continue with e4. Now, if I take my knight, stopping queen h5, I take the rook with a big advantage. You can already see how inactive black's pieces are. None of their bishops can really go anywhere useful. Their 2 knights are potentially going to come out pretty soon, but that's one of the only things they can do. And now, looks like e5 is effective. Knight to e4 is practically forced. Then queen h5 is coming. King d7, and I don't quite see the win, but I have some experience in these types of positions. I think knight to f7 is good enough. I mean, maybe e6 check is good, but this is much easier. They have to go queen e8. Now, I want to say the e6 afterwards is very, very effective, because their king, if it moves to c6, I have knight to e5, discovered check, hitting their queen. So they have to do king takes, and I think bishop h3. And where are they going? King f6, I would assume. That's the only legal move, I want to say. And oh, this is amazing. I can't see the mate, so I'm checking them a lot to see if I can get something out of this. Knight to e5, is that any good? I'm very, very close. Yeah, knight to e5. King to h7. Bishop f5 wouldn't work. Bishop takes bishop. Queen takes. Oh, this is amazing. How am I not winning? Bishop takes bishop. Then I can go maybe queen f7, g6, that sort of thing. Like queen f7, I've just got so many attacking ideas. For example, rook takes h6 mate. So the only way they stop it that I see, I actually don't see how they stop it. So I had thought they'd have a move, but a bit like Bobby Fischer in one of his games, I couldn't actually see what my opponent had, so I just assumed they had something. Maybe they don't, maybe there's nothing. Because I'd thought if they defended it somehow, I'd have like queen g7, queen g6, and then taking on h6, or knight f7, or knight g4, and I continue with this huge attack. Yeah, they don't really have a move. Okay, and then checkmate them. Rook h6 mate. Wonderful. Alright, I gained a grand total of 0 from winning that game. Now I'm 135th or 36th. Yeah, 37th now. People are starting to catch up. So that's the top 10%. So with another win, I reckon that I'll gain top 100 placing. Now, it's not exactly the best idea to try and get 2400 using this arena tournament, because of the fact that one loss might get me sort of minus 17 and one win gets me sort of +1 or +0. But it's good kind of mental exercise to be playing these low-rated people and just to consistently beat them. Because at least in over-the-board chess, FIDE ratings, consistency I think is one of the most important things to have. Like you could win 3 or 4 games against grandmasters, but if you lose, berserk! I forgot. I nearly forgot to berserk then. All right, so I'm playing a 1700. Now they're doing what I did earlier, but the big difference is that they're weaker than me, which is a very harsh thing to say. But it usually means they won't know their openings too well. They are playing c6. So if I take them, it leads to some difficult positions. I'm actually going to transpose it into a Panov-Botvinnik Caro-Kann. If they don't take me, then I've got a great position. So they do like bishop f4. Sorry, bishop f5, I mean. I can play things like queen b3. I could even take them if I wanted. Knight f3 would be fine. Knight c3 would be good. Possibly pawn takes is good enough then. So they have to take me. Now, c takes d5 is a move, but I don't like it. I like knight c3. And this can transpose into the, I think it's called the Russian variation, with queen b3, and it can lead, sort of leading into a kind of Grunfeld type position. Now in these positions, what you may notice is that black can take me at any time on c4. That will lead to a position in a kind of queen's gambit, with an isolated queen's pawn, but I do get enough development to make things difficult for them. e6 I'm not really a fan of because it does prevent their light squared bishop coming out. So here, bishop g5 is definitely an option. I'm just a fan of bishop g5. It's always a useful move to play. Then pawn takes c4 is usually done at some stage here, so I'm expecting it to be done relatively quickly. I don't really want to pre-move, but I am in the habit of doing it eventually. Now, if I play bishop d3, they take me. So surprisingly, c5 is not usually advisable in these positions because what it does is it closes up the queen side, black has an easier time breaking with moves like e5 at the right moment. But because their bishop's on e7, they can't really put anything on the e-file to support e5 because their bishop's in the way, and the bishop can't really get to d6 or to that diagonal on c7, d6, b8, etc. to support e5. So it's much harder for black to play than it is usually. Knight to e4. Now they are offering a trade. I will accept the trade, I think, unless h4 is good. I'm not sure about it. Knight takes knight, pawn takes, bishop takes, queen takes, bishop takes e4. Okay. I'm winning a pawn. It does look a little dangerous because my king is still open. I'm trusting to the fact that they can't yet really open the game up. At least not at the moment. They might be able to do it very, very soon. But I am winning that e-pawn. They can't do anything else. Yeah, knight takes. I mean, I guess they could have done queen to a5, but it did look suspicious. They've done knight takes. I basically have to take them back. I thought they'd take with the queen. I thought that might have been more accurate. Anyway, knight d5 is a move, though, so perhaps that is better. f5, pawn move. Feels very suspicious. So bishop d3 might be best, but I like c2 better. It does protect d4 with my queen still. Knight d5. Now before everything opens up and gets ridiculous, castle, kingside, they do have this good square for their knight on d5. So at some stage I may have to remove it with bishop takes. I have the e-file though. Generally, when you have the isolated d-pawn, which is no longer it's never been isolated, but it's a backward pawn, you have to use the two files adjacent to it. Here the c file is not really that useful because I've got the c5 pawn, but the e file is really, really, really important. It also targets their backward pawn on e6. So both of us have weak pawns in the center. I am a pawn up. They've wrecked their kingside, but have got a lot of space in that area. I generally like white's position more than black's because I've played with pieces, not so much pawns. And to kind of cement my point, they're just making pawn moves. I'm improving my pieces every turn. I like to think I am anyway. And their pieces are still very hard to maneuver. Now they could try playing something like queen h4 to get some sort of initiative on me. But I'm not so sure it's a good idea. Let's see. Knight to f4. Oh, they actually played it. Knight to f4. I wasn't thinking they'd actually play it. Alright, we'll improve my pieces. g3 is a pawn move. I don't like it so much. Bishop b3. Again, piece play. Line up with their king. Attack their weak pawn. Potentially, I've got d5, shoving. If I can shove that pawn to d5, breaking open the center, my superior pieces should win the game. So if, say, queen e7, I want to say that d5 would be very useful. Now, what will they do? They could go queen h4 again. They've gone queen g5. I was pretty close. d5 to me is looking like the best move. I see no attack that they can generate in a quick time period. Knight h3 is the only thing that might cause me worry, but then I think I could always just play king f1 if I need to. Pawn takes, king f1, queen g2, king e2, queen e4, king d2, and I don't see how they win a piece even. So while it might look scary at first, it just doesn't seem to work. Now, pawn takes pawn is the more natural move. And I think, even though I lose the bishop pair, I think bishop takes. And if they do knight takes, I'm still going to do bishop takes. So however they take on d5, I will recapture with the bishop, either with check, or basically force them to take me anyway, and then take back with the queen, where it will be a check. Their king is completely open, their rooks are not connected. My rooks, I guess you could argue they're not connected because I've got a queen in the way, but the queen is also a piece that is moving horizontally and vertically. Ooh, rook to d8. I am thinking of sacking my queen with pawn takes pawn, but I think that's too much. There's no reason to do that, so instead I will improve. It is a pawn move, true, but it improves my bishop. Now, this move, oh, I nearly had it, but I'll play it anyway. Knight takes. I thought I had knight takes, rook takes, bishop takes, e6, but I do have rook takes. Knight takes, bishop takes, check. And I fork their rook and king. Rook f7, I can just do queen d5, and I've got such a huge advantage, it must be winning. So rook takes. Again, pre-move, I'm definitely doing bishop takes rook. And if they don't take me, I have so many discovered checks. Like king h8 might be the best move. Okay, I was pretty close. King g7. So Patzer sees a check. Queen d4. I have to be slightly wary of knight e2 check, but I've got a rook that's protecting e2. So as long as I don't blunder horribly, it should be good. Now king f8 does stop me. That's annoying. King there. Queen h8 check is looking like the right plan. Queen g8. Oh, then rook e8 check. Yeah, that's much better. Queen here. If queen g8, rook e8 check, and then I'm threatening queen takes g8 next turn because of the mate. So if king f7, I think rook e7 is mate in 1. Okay, and they've resigned. Good, good. I'm happy with that. So I'm now in the top 65 players. And there's basically 1,800 people. So I am, what would that be? 180 divided by 3. Top 3, like 3 or 4%? Top 4%, let's say. I think I'm definitely there. So that's very, very good for me. Yeah, 1,800 people. Okay, and ooh, against the 2,000. This is the first game which is one that I can conceivably lose. I'll play a Sicilian. They're doing the Grand Prix attack. So I'll let them do it for a move. See if they continue with f4. They haven't. They've gone g3. So what this does is it prevents me doing the move I often do. Now f4 wouldn't be a Grand Prix very successfully. So I'm going to play a kind of dragons type system. And I am a fan of the Fischer system with e6 and then knight to e7. I'll consider it for a moment if I do something else, but to me this is just an easy way to play. d3, e6, e5 is the Botvinnik system as black. I'm just not really a fan of those positions as black because white does gain the extra tempo, and that actually can be very important. So b6, making sure I'm careful, but b6 is looking to me like the right move. Queen d2 does prevent certain ideas. If I go knight ge7, I'm going to have to go bishop h6. Right, well let's go bishop b7 then. That's the move I'm going to do anyway. So it just holds off on moving my knight, so they can't do bishop h6 yet. The thing is, if I go h6 to stop them, they do something like, yeah, knight e7. I can't castle because of then the h6 pawn dropping. So I may have to just allow them to do it. Knight f6 is a move though. Bishop h6 castles. But if they castle, I go knight g4. Bishop g5. I don't know. I just don't want. The whole reason of doing this is to play knight e7. So knight f6 isn't going to work. I may have to allow them to do it, which is a downside. Unless I still don't do a knight move. Like rook c8 might be a possibility. h5 is interesting. h6, castle queenside, knight f6. I really wanted to play knight e7, but this bishop h6 move is so annoying. Because if I allow bishop h6, I think I have to castle. Then they can go h4, and suddenly my position's just falling apart. Very well, knight f6. Oh dear. That's why I don't like these systems with queen d2 as black. As white I play them a lot because it does annoy your opponent. They've kind of got me out of playing this. Now they could actually play e5, but I think I have knight g4, not knight takes, because I would then lose my bishop on b7. Oh dear. So I'm already a bit unhappy with this. I'm kind of hoping they castle kingside. That would then indicate to me that their kingside attack would not be as strong. If they go queenside, I have to worry about pawn storms with h4, g4, f4, and then charging up. My queenside attack is a bit more difficult to get going because I've played b6, not a6, b5, and my c5 pawn is a bit vulnerable. I might have to go queen e7, and then get a rook to c8, and push b5. Oh, I didn't notice that. My rating went up a tiny bit. Okay, well here, unfortunately for me, castling is obligatory. I've pre-moved king takes. I have a feeling that's what they'll play. Maybe I'm being ridiculous, but that just looks obvious. The only good thing is their queen can't get to h6. And if they don't take me, I think I might make them take me if that makes any sense. What I'll end up doing is moving my queen, I suspect, and then playing rook on f8 to maybe c8 or d8. And then I'm not threatening, but I'm planning bishop h8 to save my dark square bishop. So in order for them to still get it, they would have to do that. Now queen e7, bishop takes bishop, king takes h5. Knight takes g4, knight f8, queen h6. It's looking very, very strong. Alright. There is bishop h8 now, though. Yeah, I'm going to try this out, bishop h8. So what this does is it essentially forces them to take on f8 with their bishop. It's a strange exchange sacrifice. I've seen it played a few times, not by any very, very strong players, but by people who are like FMs or IMs. And the idea is that white's attack is generally stalling in this position. And black actually has good control of the position with the bishop pair and double Fianchetto. It's kind of experimental. It hasn't really been done very often with a great deal of success. But in a kind of semi-blitz game that I'm doing, especially with my berserking time, it's a good way to experiment. I'm sure that... Oh, e5, alright. Knight g4. Continuing my plan. Again, I can't take them. I'm attacking the pawn 3 times, though. So f4 is the only way to defend it. And then I might have h5. And I'm preventing all of white's pawn storms. There we go. No more attack for white. That's their initiative gone. My knight on g4 can always pivot around via h6 to f5. I can play knight d4 at the right moment, obviously, not losing my bishop. That's too many sacrifices. And I do have pawn d5 coming up. So if they take me en passant, then my bishop on h8 is suddenly brought to life. But I also have pawn d6, which is the more simple way of playing. Now, castling queenside is definitely a move. Yeah, I think I do need my bishop on h8 to come alive, so I think d6 is actually better than d5, because it will force the pawns to trade. Even though d5 blocks up the position a bit, it is possible they can eventually crash through with f5 at the right moment. So I do need to challenge their centre straight away and open the position on the diagonal. So how do they stop me? Knight to e4 is a way to prevent that from happening, which they've just done as I said it. Alright, so I might have to play d5 now. Yeah, d5 now to prevent the octopus knight coming to d6, with my d-pawn being a backward pawn forever. Gain some space. I am aware that of e takes d6 en passant, but then I'm going to play a bit risky and do bishop takes b2. They do rook b1. And then I'm not sure where to put the bishop. G7 is pretty safe. Then I have knight takes c5. Maybe I have to go bishops to d4. They take me with their knight. I take with my knight. Then they can't do knight c5 because their bishop on g2 is pinned. Is being attacked by my bishop if they take. And then, you know, I have knights in the centre. I've got something in that case. So en passant, I'm not too unhappy with. Now, other moves they can play. Knight to d6. I think I have to play bishop a6, keeping the bishop pair. And at the right moment, I might be able to sack on e5 and get rid of a pawn that's guarding them and actually win their knight. So if they do castle queenside, yeah, I might be able to do knight takes e5, pawn takes, bishop takes. And yeah, their knight is essentially trapped on d6. What else can they do? Knight f6 check is a way to try and trade pieces, but I do win a pawn. That's good. I'll take any material I can. I'm not even a pawn up for the exchange. It's just bishop for rook. So my space advantage needs to be present. My bishops need to be active. And if I can, I'll take any material that I can get for free. They've done knight f2, trying to trade pieces. That makes a lot of sense. Right, can I do knight takes e5? Is that ridiculous? Pawn takes, knight takes. Castle kingside. I don't really see how my attack does much. So, okay, forget that move. Okay, pawn f5 here. Maybe they just castle. I don't know. I don't like pawn f5. It feels like I'm losing too much integrity of my pawns. So knight takes will at least prevent them castling, and it might allow me to play f6 again, breaking the rule. Never play f6. But their king is lined up with my queen on the f-file. I do have something there, and it might allow me to win a pawn. They have taken me. I don't know which way to take. Queen takes would improve my rook, so I'll do queen takes. Because rook f8 is the obvious move that's coming. And the bishop on f6 is just as good as the bishop on h8. I think it's still hitting the same squares. They've done c3. Now, where to go next? e5 is a move, but then they do bishop takes d5 check. Rook f8 is a possibility, and then they do their rook to f1 or something. Okay, what about knight to e5? That move would let me go to g4 with a check and improve my knight. So knight to e5, rook hf1, knight g4, king g1. Yeah, okay, I like it. It's a slightly offbeat move, but it also improves my bishop. So again, I'm looking for piece improvements all the time. And after knight to g4, I would actually have e5 because my d5 pawn would then be protected. It's a way to bring all my pieces into the game. Yeah, rook f1 is what I thought they'd do. Knight g4 is pretty much the only move I can do. King g1. Then rook e8 or rook f8. So I'm going to have to play e5 sooner or later. I think rook e8. Because they have their rook on the f-file, so I'm going to try and use the e-file. Rook e1, yep. Where next? Bishop a6 is a move? Alright, let's do queen f5. So I can threaten bishop a6 next turn. My bishop on h8 could even come out later. c4 is potentially a move. And I'm kind of hoping they do bishop h3, because I do have some interesting ideas after that move. With sort of d4 and then queen d5 and other options. Oh, they've done d4 themselves, so they can't let me have anything, can they? All right, bishop a6, improve the bishop. I'm not sure this exchange sack is fully worth it in compensation, but at least I have some initiative. What next? They could do rook f3, that's a possibility. They could do queen e3, sorry, not queen e3, what I'm talking about. Bishop f3 to attack my knight. I just feel like, yeah, bishop f3 is what they've done. I just like this attack on d4 that I'm guessing together. So let's attack them. And I will win the exchange if they take with the knight. I mean, I'll take their knight first to stop my queen getting taken, but then I'll take the rook. So now, rook c8 is a possibility. And they go rook c1. I don't quite have enough. Bishop takes knight is a move. They do takes or something. Yeah, my attack seems to be running out. Alright, so like I said earlier, my knight on g4, this feels like a long time ago, might pivot round to f5. So I'm going to move my queen afterwards and then come to f5 with the knight. And this might give me enough to get something here. Because queen f6 is my other move I'm planning. Try and target d4 with everything I have. If I can win the d4 pawn, then my exchange sack might not be the worst thing in the world. I would have a pawn for the exchange, the bishop pair, potentially. I probably would have to lose the bishop pair in order to win the pawn, but there's always a chance that we trade knights on d4. And I would have a passed d pawn. So I might have just about enough to be happy with this. Now, how are they going to play it? King h1 would be a little bit suspicious because of queen h3 check. Then it might be very bad for them. King h2 is a lot more reasonable. But then, yeah, queen f6 is always quite a nice option. King g2 is played, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Now, queen f6. Target the pawn. Where do they go next? They could do like rook g1 or something to get out the pin. I just feel like that's a very inactive move. And knight f5, I don't really see how they defend it. Rook d1 makes more sense. So I could do bishop takes knight straight away, but I am going to improve my knight, make it stronger. So I've got 1, 2, 3 pieces on that pawn. They've got 3 pieces as well, but their knight's pinned. And I can also take it as well. So I will win that pawn, I think, in the next move. At least I hope so. Then I will have to go up the bishop pair, it seems. Where are they going to go? Rook to e1, yep. Okay, now do I take them? Do I wait a move? Bishop takes, they do bishop takes, I do knight takes. Bishop f1 or something. Oh no, I've got something here. Knight takes is obviously wrong to do it straight away. Rook to c8 doesn't do much, does it? They go rook c1, I take their rook. They take with their rook. Yeah, it's not very interesting, not very fun. Yeah, I think I have to take them. I'm down to 2 minutes as well, so I shouldn't dilly-dally so much, just play the move. Now they will take with their bishop, I would assume. I'm going to take with my queen, I think, because I'm down low on time. So what this will do is trading queens will go into an ending, and that means it's more likely that I can play it correctly in an ending, because there's less to analyse. If they take with their queen, I am going to take with my knight. So I'm not going to pre-move, because pre-moving is a bit dangerous. Knight takes if they don't take with their queen. If they do take with their queen... queen takes if they don't take with their queen. If they do take with the queen, I'll do knight takes. And remember, I have no increment. They do have increment, so they have the advantage of, because I berserked. I'm losing the bishop pair. The one other thing that's going in my favour is with the trade of queens that could happen. I will have an opposite bishop ending. And if I can trade off, say, a set of rooks as well, it will be basically bishop and knight versus rook and bishop. And those kind of endings are difficult to play. The downside for that is that my pawns are all on light squares. So if they bring their bishop round to like d7, then things aren't looking so good. But until then, my knight could be very useful on f5 or in the centre, and my bishop is controlling lots and lots of squares on the dark squares. So I might be able to get a kind of fortress effect going. They're still considering which way to take me. I don't think there's a lot of choice. Bishop takes just looks very inactive. Rook takes, to me, is the most active move, but you know, it could be wrong. Bishop takes is what they've done. Alright, so queen takes then. Then queen takes queen. I'll do bishop takes. Because I still have the queen takes b2 idea. So they're probably going to trade queens in order to defend their pawn. Or they could play b3, but then I go knight to e3, check. I win the exchange straight back, and then I might even have a slight advantage. So what are they thinking about here? What other move could they do? Queen takes queen, bishop takes, then bishop b5, didn't see that. Nice move, interesting. Alright, okay, again, I don't have enough time to be messing around. Just play rook e7. I don't want to lose that e6 pawn. That's my key. that pawn. So again, just to save a bit of time, pre-move taking. I didn't want to take their queen straight away because I like having the threat. I kind of want them to take me because that would improve my bishop. And I still don't really see how they avoid the trade. I don't know, maybe there's a way, but it looks generally pretty good for me. And okay, if queen c2, it's a little bit dangerous, but I think I can still take on b2 because I can't go queen c8. What else is there? b3, yeah, just knight. Oh, knight to e3 doesn't work anymore. That's the downside. So queen takes queen, rook takes, bishop c3 would do the honors. Actually, they do have queen. No, they don't. Okay, that doesn't work either. Queen to e2 is what I was thinking of, but again, I can just take on b2. They're down to 11 minutes, which is plenty of time. I'm down to 2.5. I'm not quite in the blunder zone yet, but I'm not exactly happy with the amount of time I have. I'd really like an extra few minutes. At least I know that in the standings, I'm not a mile away from the top echelons. And I'm not really trying to win this tournament. I don't intend to play for however long there is left, 2.5 hours. But I do want to be higher up enough that I play 2,000 plus players every round. How long has this video been going? It's been going nearly an hour. So I suspect after this game I will stop the video and then continue in the next one. Because I don't intend to quit just yet. I've gained 2 points for my rating. And hopefully if I win this I'll gain a couple more. So interesting. So here, who do you think is better? Do you think it's white with their extra exchange? Do you think black might even be better because I've got some initiative? Or do you think it's more level, sort of dynamically equal? Be interesting to hear your opinions. The next question, who do you think is going to win? So again, that's my kind of theory that started to be expounded on by other players who can express it more eloquently than me, is that even though one side might be winning or objectively better, it doesn't mean that doesn't correlate to who actually wins the game. So do you think black's going to win? Do you think white's going to win? Or do you think draw? Or is it too early to tell? And remember to take in lots into your considerations. How easy the position is to play, how much they blunder. Knight to e3 is looking very, very good here. I think I have to play it. And also the time makes a big difference. Now, they are going to unfortunately win a pawn off me with bishop takes g6. But I'm hoping I can play bishop takes f4 at the end. Oh, they did king, okay. They did that move, okay, that makes things easier. King to f3. Now, the big question, do I take on b2? Or do I play like king g7? Oh, it's very difficult. take on b2, take on g6, then I go somewhere, d4, they take on h5. I just don't like it. I think I'm going to have to let them have the pawn with this. It would trade off bishops. Oh, they went b3. Interesting. All right. Can I go e5? I thought they'd take me and then win the pawn. They went b3. Interesting. All right. So, oh, a rook c7. Because if they do bishop takes pawn, then I think I'm a lot better. After king takes, rook c3, king back, king f5, and I'm suddenly getting my king active. I mean, maybe I'm pushing it too far, but I don't know, active kings in the ending, they're really, really valuable. And it's a rook and pawn ending where it might not be that relevant. And I'm also a pawn up, so even if I lose the pawn, I'm level. They have done rook d2, they're playing really passively. Fantastic. Okay, rook d2, rook c3, keep improving my position. They do something, king e2 maybe, I don't know. Then I push. My pawn's backward anyway. Bishop takes is essentially forced. No, they went rook c2. That's annoying. Rook c2, rook c2. Okay, take it. Bishop takes. Then do I take them or do I push? Take or push, take or push. I am going to take, because what I do is I win a pawn with bishop f6. It's basically, it's either winning or it's a oh, it's a good move. Okay, so it's either winning for me or it's a draw. But I do like my chances with these two pawns. Now king e3, that's wonderful. Okay, fantastic. Get my king active. Active king. b4, okay. Target the pawn. Yeah, okay. Then bishop c3, so I'm preventing their king from catching up to my pawns. I really don't want to trade, but I may have to. I'm down to 50 seconds as well, so that's not ideal. Difficult, very difficult. I want to play bishop b2, bishop c1. That would force their king to f3. Okay, yeah. Bishop c1 is the plan. Okay, that allows me to do it anyway, bishop c1. I'm targeting this pawn. That means that it's easier for me to push my own pawn. Bishop d3. Alright, h4, try and push. I really want, what I want to do is actually have pawns that are far away. Like this. Okay, now push my king in. Wonderful, okay. Then again, run my king around. Around in a big circle. Oh dear. Again, I'm down to a few seconds, so that was a huge blunder from me. But never mind, never mind. Oh, they didn't even take me. Okay, wonderful. Alright. King in. Then bishop somewhere. Oh, let me take it. Okay, then just pre-move all the way. With 27 seconds, they resigned. Okay, that was a few blunders right at the end because I was down to 30 seconds with no increment. Oh dear, I spent too long in that game. That was a bit hair-raising. Okay, I'm going to stop the video here. I did manage to gain a couple of points from that, and I'll continue in the next one. See you in the next video. Bye.